Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. We'll be right back to the show. But before we do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, factormeals.com, where if you go to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50, you can get 50% off your first order. That's factormeals.com/unbroken50. If you're like me and you are a person who is busy trying to create a life, heal, work on their health, wealth, and relationships, and not to mention deal with the day-to-days of normal life, you do not have time to be going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to cook every single day of the week. In fact, one time I did the math and I realized I was spending over 15 hours a week at the grocery store and cooking. When I added Factor, I got to use that time for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for my business. And so if you're in the place where you need some more support in the kitchen, head to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50 to get 50% off. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world. I'm Michael Anthony, author, speaker, podcaster, and advocate for adult survivors of childhood trauma. And you're listening to the Michael Unbroken Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to welcome clinical psychologist Stephanie Carinia. Stephanie, my friend, how are you today?
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm very good. And I'm excited to be on your show or your podcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. I love what you're doing on social media. I love the conversations that you're having. I love that you're stepping into this thing about healing and personal growth and the journey that I think so many of us really need to go on, even though a lot of us
Hmm.
don't. And
Hmm.
before I jump into that and start down that path with you, what kind of led you to this place? How did you end up doing what you're now doing?
You mean also reaching out to people on a broader level, not only my work as a psychologist,
Yeah,
or yeah,
exactly. Well, and all of it, right? I'm
all
so
of it.
curious
Okay.
about your story.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so often you hear that people become a psychologist, or that people think that people become psychologists because they want to help other people. In my case, it was that I was fascinated about human behavior. Why do we behave the way we behave? Especially the unconscious. I'm focused on personality and trauma, which is often the cause of personality problems. So I was working like just in a mental health care institution, and still am, by the way. But I got frustrated by clients who said that the interventions was like life changing, and why didn't I know this 10 years before? And and I was frustrated by the fact that there's a lot of information that should be possible and accessible to everyone out there. And people should not have to become, in this case, when I was working in an addiction center, someone told me, do I really have to develop a cocaine addiction to be able to have access to this information, life-changing information? And I agree with him. Why should not some basic information be accessible to everyone? And that's what motivated to start my Instagram account, psychologist Stephanie, a while ago. And
Yeah,
I'm very happy now to spread my message on a wider level, just like now.
yeah, and that's beautiful and it's powerful. I'm in complete agreement. I think that if anything, if we're going to make the world a better place, we have to make access to information stronger. And
Hmm.
one of the things that's really beautiful is we can have the conversations on social media and Instagram and an email and via text, and it's not
Yes.
hidden and kept from people. And now I think more than ever, we have permission to seek it on our own.
Hmm.
What if anything, like as you are in this and you're noticing the impact that you're having on social media, what if
Hmm.
anything do you feel like is the thing that people are most seeking when they're reaching out to you and they're wanting to step into what's next in their life?
Um, what I hear most often, what resonates, people letting me know that my posts resonate a lot, or the Insta lives, and they said that for the first time, or at least they feel understood. They're like, "Wow, these messages are directed directly to me. I hear this often. I always knew there was something wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint it." And what I guess what people really, a lot of people that out there really miss, want that set is that sense of connection, of feeling understood, because we're all not crazy. We're all sensing something inside, but if with childhood trauma it hasn't been identified correctly by our parents and we're emotionally neglected, we won't be able to pinpoint what it is, and we won't be able to trust our own judgment. Well, we have definitely our own judgment. And I think that people with social media now, they can at least identify what they already know inside, but haven't yet consciously understood.
We'll be right back to today's show, but first I need to ask you a question. Are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling like you don't have the support to go to the next level in your healing journey? Are you feeling like you wish you had a little bit more support from not only myself, but the Unbroken Nation? Well, my friend, I want to invite you to come and join our live weekly coaching sessions in Think Unbroken. All you have to do is go to Keys, Keys, keys.thinkunbroken.com to sign up and join us today with 100% money back, no questions asked, guaranteed, and no contract or commitment. Every week for the next year, you can come and be a part of our live coaching sessions each Monday as we dive deep into not only answering your questions, but questions from the Unbroken Nation, and help you take all of the information that you learn in the podcast, in the courses, and other areas of this journey, bring them into your life and use it in a way that is practical, life-changing, and transformative. So my friend, join us at keys.thinkunbroken.com, and we will see you this Monday. Yeah, that's such a great way to put it, and I'm a proponent of that. I believe in that entirely, and I know the only way that we're going to create long-term viable change is by having communal intervention. We're going to have to
Mhm,
come together as a species of human beings to be able to walk the line and toe the boulder of working through this.
mhm,
So many people just want to be seen, felt, heard, and that
mhm,
thing which you mentioned is in part of them, they kind of know something has happened to them. They kind of feel it.
mhm.
What's it like for you in the role that you are when someone is finding that? How do we help guide them? Or even I guess the better question is if you are a person who has felt, something's off, something doesn't feel right, I know something happened. How do you start this process to be curious about it and to investigate it?
That's a good question. We need to inform ourselves. We need to get the information. So I think it's very healthy that everyone is seeking out there on social media. If they don't have access to a therapist or whatever, they just start getting the information that you need to know to understand yourself more. Um, yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm not sure. Do you have any ideas? I'm curious also on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is just about giving yourself the grace to be curious enough to step into it, right?
Hmm.
We live in Western societies and many societies around the world where it's positioned that we should feel shame or guilt or worse
Hmm.
about things that have happened to us that are not our responsibility. And I'm always thinking about how can we help give people access to more tools to be able to step into that place where they're
Yeah.
willing to say, "Yeah, I need help," right? And
Yes.
and and that's so much of the conversation. How do we effectively navigate people into knowing that it's okay to ask for help?
Mhm. And this reminds me of I was listening to a podcast of yours in which you were, and I saw also a post on it, on that there's this whole taboo of blaming our parents, right? Or talking about that, discussing that, even questioning our childhood if our needs were met, etc. And I think that that is the first step to break this taboo. And curiosity is everything. I remember once listening to a podcast, and there was a question to that person said, "What are the two most important things that can make you happy ASAP?" And one of them was curiosity. So if we're able to stop judging, but transform that judgment into curiosity, we're going from defense mechanism to growth. Curiosity is key. And as for the being curious, a lot of, especially childhood trauma, is created in childhood. It's not for nothing. And also with the personality, the way we interact right now, Michael, the projections we will have towards each other, everything is guided by what we are shaped in childhood. And so we need to go there. And a lot of people are scared. There's even one person that has created her own account to be able to follow me because she's so afraid what other people will think. Because I'm posting on childhood and our parents. And I think that it's important for people to realize that when we go to our childhood, our purpose is not to blame. Who cares about blaming? We want to heal. With blaming, we're not going to heal. Okay. So going to our childhood and questioning and reevaluating what has happened is with one purpose only: to acknowledge the needs that weren't met and what was done to us. We're not talking about if they did it on purpose or not. Our psychology doesn't care about that. That's not the point. But when we're not going to recognize and acknowledge what was done to us, we're going to misinterpret it. And we will have our inner critic haunting us for the rest of our lives. And we won't be able to develop self-compassion, which is crucial. And we will be trapped in shame. And it will affect our relationships. We won't be able to trust people. So actually, if you would look at it from that perspective, it is quite selfish to not go to childhood. It's quite selfish if we wouldn't put the blame on the one that caused the damage. That goes also in our daily lives. Because when we will blame ourselves. Depression, for instance, is internalized anger. And we won't be better persons in society if we project our anger towards other people or towards ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to upset people in saying that because we often, and especially in American society, we put our parents and the adults around us in our youth on a pedestal. They can
Hmm.
do no wrong. They're doing the best that they can. And yes, to an extent, that is likely true. People are only doing what they've been taught through learned behavior and experience to do. However, I also believe that there is a space for responsibility to be taken, and that should not be the burden to carry as a victim. To be a child who was hurt, abused, beaten, starved, sexually molested, whatever that thing was, and
Hmm.
to then turn into an adult having those same experiences that carry with you, there is a moment in which you have to understand that it's actually not your fault
Hmm.
and remove the blame that you give yourself, because without doing so, you carry that burden with you. And I think that is often the boundary between stepping into something that can be powerful in a healing journey and being
Hmm.
stuck in that place where you feel like the world is against you. And that's such a battle. How do you begin to transform your own understanding of fault and blame and responsibility when you have been hurt in childhood?
Hmm. I think so. We hear this often, what you're saying, we need to um, not carry it with us anymore. And what you often hear is, the society social media, which is very concerning, is telling us to heal because everyone wants to heal. It's the whole trend, and also a healthy trend, of course, to a degree. You need to forgive as well. And that with that, we bypass healing. That is very concerning because when we forgive too soon without the acknowledgement of what was done to us, first of all, you cannot really forgive because to forgive, we need to have self-compassion. Self-compassion we can only have when we acknowledge. It's not necessarily our parents who has to acknowledge it, as long as we, or I don't know, with the therapist, acknowledges what happened to you. Um, Only then we can have self-compassion, and then we can forgive. But we need to go to those situations that the childhood, and that is complicated. That's why I also created a Heal Your Inner Child online course for people to understand. I give specific examples of what can go wrong. And you're mentioning now a couple of things, if you were sexually abused or you were beaten, etc. So these, at least, I'm not saying that it makes it more easy, but at least were visible things that happened as a child, at least. But I have a lot of clients, high functioning, with the amazing parents who are still together. And they haven't had a connection in their whole life. They're living in prison because they were manipulated by narcissistic dynamics, etc., for instance. And that is much more complex. So people, it would be amazing if with social media, we could go more specifically to childhood situations and people could start identifying situations. For instance, I have a client, I used to have a client, and he said, my childhood was great. Everything was great. And then when we go deeper, turns out that the parent was very selfish. And so now he doesn't trust people. We need to acknowledge all these things because often, for instance, another example, Mike, I'm not sure if you've heard this one. I hear this often with people around me. My mother is just difficult. She means well. She's just anxious, being anxious. Okay. She was just overprotective. Well, I don't agree with that. She might have been anxious, but apparently she's selfish to not take her problems to a psychologist and to burden you with worrying about her. And you should be a child. You should be worrying about yourself. You should not be worrying about your parents. And that is traumatic. If you need to comfort your parents, that is not okay. It's robbing your childhood, etc. It has a lot of implications, but people are not aware of that. This is just an example.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true, and a lot of that can be covert, you just don't see it, but it doesn't mean
Yes.
it's not there.
Yes.
As people are starting to recognize this, and more so and more so, because now we're having conversations with words like narcissism, words we
Hmm.
haven't used before,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
looking at that and stepping into it, now understanding we, in order to continue to step into this path of healing, need to create boundaries and understanding around our wants, needs, interests, and values, so on and so forth. What I'm curious about from your perspective is, what role does having boundaries in your life play in the healing journey?
So yeah, I came up with this healing steps. So you have step one of acknowledging I'm wounded in the first place, because a lot of people are in denial. I'm wounded. I'm actually surviving, not thriving. And the other one is connecting to your emotions. The other one is creating your emotional home, your safe haven. The fourth one is the healing the wound, acknowledging what was done to us to be able to get the self-compassion and create self-worth. Fifth one is the relationships you need to repair. So the emotional home is about, I suppose that you're living in a house with a roof over your head, assuming most people do. There is a reason you want protection. You want someone to retreat to be able to restore your energy, to reflect, to be safe, literally. So a lot of people with trauma don't have an emotional home. We forget that we need one. An emotional home is your own safe haven. That's the space the place you go to, an emotional place in this case, where you feel safe. But especially with trauma, when you have this inner critic, because you yet not have acknowledged what was done to you, so all the blame goes towards ourselves. We're beating ourselves up as inner critic, and the shame that can be killing. A lot of people out there who experience shame know how hectic that emotion is, and we need to heal. I think it was a beautiful sentence in Pete Walker's book as well, From Surviving to Thriving. We need to take our own side. And that's that. So we need to we need to have our home. And your question was about boundaries. Well, the door in a home is a boundary, right? If there's bad people, I assume you close the door. You're not opening the door. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of people, if they have a home, they don't have doors, and everything comes in and it's unsafe. And that is boundaries. We need to have a home, and we need to have doors and to close them.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's really beautiful. So what does it look like to start to build that? Because our agency is taken from us in abuse and in
Yes,
trauma,
yes,
and as a
yes.
ramification of the things that happen to us. The idea of standing up for ourselves is terrifying in its own right. There's typically ramifications or judgment or shame or whatever that comes with that. And to
Yeah.
now being an adult and to have a conversation with yourself that says, I need to stand up for myself, is incredibly uncomfortable, because everything you've understood to this point was that it's not okay.
Mhm.
How do we make standing up for yourself okay?
Yeah, that's a good point. So what you're describing, Michael, is in this case, is that people will still be burdened with the projections of the unsafe parent. So they will, because normally in life, people, just like you said, I loved it what you said, like, people are not out to get you, right? We When traumatized, of course we will think that people are out to get us, because as a child they didn't care about our needs and they were hurting us. So of course we developed a worldview that people are unsafe. That makes sense. But now we're an adults, and assuming that you're in a safe, you're not held hostage or whatever, and you're sort of in a safe environment, you need to understand that people can be safe too. So they appreciate you. Healthy people appreciate you setting boundaries, right? I mean, so I'm posting, I'm having these posts. I do it on purpose by saying that, like, and read it on social media as well, that taking care of yourself is priority. And I'm taking it a little bit further. Not expressing anger is By not expressing anger, we're abandoning not only ourselves, we are abandoning the other person, because we are withholding something from them. So not expressing anger is selfish, because that other person doesn't have the opportunity to meet your needs, for instance. So
Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? We'll be right back to today's episode, but I want to take a moment and invite you to Think Unbroken Conference. That's right. Our next conference is happening right around the corner this December, with amazing speakers from around the world who are leaders in personal development, trauma education, mindset, and more. All you have to do to register to watch for free, that's right, $0. Come and join us. Is go to myunbrokenlife.com, register and sign up. You can get access to the free event. Watch live with us this December. It'll be myself speaking along with amazing human beings like Anthony Trucks, Jamie Bronstein, Leslie Logan, and a special interview that I'm doing with Dr. Gabor Mate that has never before been released. So come and join us, myunbrokenlife.com. All you have to do is put in your email. We'll send you over the registration. You'll be able to come and join us, watch live. And then if you want access to the recordings or more information there for you to keep them forever. But in the meantime, go sign up. Block it off on your calendar. This is going to be a transformational experience that you do not want to miss. Head over to myunbrokenlife.com to register for free. Until next time, be unbroken.
Yeah, realistically, the hard part about it is that it's a learned process that requires an immense amount of patience, that also requires help and guidance. And I think about this idea that if you can't feel one emotion, then it's very unlikely you can feel any of the range of emotions. And like anger is not necessarily a bad thing. I constantly think about anger as fuel for what I do. So much about Think Unbroken is because I have this little chip on my shoulder over here that says, watch what I can do, even though you did those things to me. And for me, I've been able to step into this place where the fear of judgment no longer exists in my life because I've created personal sovereignty. I have understanding of who I am, of my boundaries, my wants, needs, interests, and the whole gamut of everything that makes me me. But at the beginning, it was hard. At the beginning, it was so incredibly difficult to put myself in a position to be willing to acknowledge emotional capacity. And at one point, I actually thought I might be a sociopath. I haven't cried in 15 years because what had happened is I totally had become dissociated and shut off. One of the things that I think is really pointed in this healing journey is to remove yourself from being dissociated, excuse me, and start to step into awareness of who you are. How much of that is a role in healing, of just being willing to step into discovering who you are?
And I'm curious with Michael, if I can ask. So how did you do that? So at some point you decided, I'm gonna step up and express myself. I'm not gonna hold back and be a dissociative anymore.
Yeah, well, and of
Right?
course I didn't have the words for it then, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
word dissociation did not exist in my vocabulary,
Yeah.
but it was more of an understanding of I'm not living up to my expectation that I have for me. And that's really what it was. And as I stepped into the journey and I would be in therapy or men's group therapy or with my coach or reading a book or at a seminar, I would start to discover things about me that I was interested about. And then I just started moving towards them. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm starting to be that person I always thought I could be. Right. And I noticed the emotional capacity I had. I noticed my physical body, like sensation and emotion. I noticed just being present. And that so much was just in the process of the healing journey. And so that's why I was curious about it. Is that something that is an across the board thing? How much of this healing is really just becoming who you are capable of being?
Yeah. Good point. I think so. Childhood trauma is nothing else than, because a lot of people say, okay, so perhaps say, okay, so you had a bad childhood. Okay. So it wasn't much fun. Okay. It's not about that it wasn't much fun. It's not about the pain that we suffered as a child. It is about that too. It is about the consequences of what happened. And that is that there will be arrested development, as it is called. So a lot of functions we have are off, are switched off. And that is very unfair, if you would say, and it's not visible. At least if you have trauma, physical trauma, it's visible. But people with childhood trauma have a lot of functions that don't work. And to navigate through life without that is so much harder. It's so much harder. To navigate through life without being in touch with anger or feeling that you're not allowed to be angry is very hard. This is not the best analogy that I have, but for now it's the best I can come up with. As if you're driving a car, I assume that you're driving a car with, the different the different gear, right? Gear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Is that correct with driving? Yeah. I don't know the English term, but the gear. So you need to understand that if with childhood trauma, with this arrested development, you're driving on the car with only 1 and 5. You don't, it's not much fun. And what you want to is to have the full access of the whole car to be able to drive. And anger, people don't understand the power of emotions. Anger is our power. So anger, if it's not processed correct, if anger is processed correctly, it is our power. It will get us to where we want. Anger is not only protection from harm. Anger is our power to get our goals done, to keep our focus, to fight for what we want. When we are in touch with our anger, we are much safer people to other people. For instance, The Price of Being Nice, an interesting article. This one is fascinating. I never thought about this. Did you know that people who are nice are judged as less trustworthy?
That I didn't know, but I believe it.
Yeah. And the reason is because if you're nice, you never express your anger or your dissatisfaction in an interaction with someone, you're hiding, because we're all angry. Perhaps it's been suppressed and you're very proud. If you have a fawn response, you're very proud of, I'm never angry. But that's emotional neglect. If you're not in touch with your anger, that's a trauma response. And if you're proud of it, that's a bigger trauma response. That means that as a child, your anger was eliminated by rejecting you or shaming you for it. And then you're going through life with only 1 or 2 gears instead of 5.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. And, I think so much of my experience and many of even my clients is anger was not allowed. You are not allowed to be angry. You are not allowed to express that side of yourself. And I noticed, and I had it actually pointed out from one of the men in my men's group therapy many years ago. He said, "You don't know how to be angry." And that was fascinating to me because no one had ever said that to me, because I didn't recognize that I had been disallowed that emotional response in my childhood, because every time I'd get upset, there would be ramifications. And what I discovered by tapping into that emotion, not only, and I'm in complete agreement with you, it became fuel, right? It became the thing that drives me in a healthy way, not in a self-destructive manner. So let's be clear, there are 2 ways that anger exists, probably more. And then the other side of it was, as I stepped into that emotional capacity, I also started to realize the other emotional capacities that I had as well. I think the challenge we face most often is the hurdle of being able to step over it's not okay to be angry into it is okay to be angry. How do you get to the place of it is okay to be angry?
I would put it a little bit differently. I would say it is not okay to not be angry. It is selfish to not be angry. The damage you're causing to society by not be angry is huge. And don't get me, and let's get this straight. If you are not expressing your anger, those types that are proud of it, depending on the temperament type, it's going to be get out there in a passive aggressive way. And that won't make people happy. I had that myself as well. When the pressure goes up, I'm going to be passive aggressive, and that's not much fun to people. So I need to work hard to get my anger out at that moment. Or if it's not going to go underground, and in toxic way, passive aggressiveness. And with passive aggressiveness, I mean that you're going to sort of sabotage things, but in a very invisible way. And otherwise it can cause depression. So it is bad to society when we're not angry. And we need to understand this. The reason that we are afraid to be angry is because in childhood, when everything is learned, our worldview develops, our world map, representations, it's called in psychology, is because as a child, when we expressed anger, which is very healthy as a child, instead of being validated, like, honey, I hear you. I see you're very angry right now. It's not okay to talk to mama that way. But I do see that you're angry. And I would like to talk to you because I want to know what's up. So that's a healthy way of responding to anger. If that was done correctly as a child, then we learn that, it's okay to be angry. I need to, of course, do it. I cannot start hitting someone, but I can express it. And they try to help you with words. And you get the impression that people in adulthood are appreciative if you show your anger, which is your communication to healthy boundaries, to be able to stay connected. But when that happens, when we have wounded parents, I call it wounded, traumatized parents or wounded parents, they are going to be afraid of anger. They cannot view it for what it is, an attempt to connect, an attempt for someone to show the boundary or the power or the goal. And it's actually, anger is actually connecting. It's actually, and not showing anger, I posted on this, by not showing your anger, you're disconnecting without the person knowing. So you're not letting the other person know that you're actually checking out within. Perhaps you're talking and you're being nice, but we all know you have already checked out emotionally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the correlation that you made between anger and using it effectively and being it a boundary, because it's so true. I mean, we as human beings, the one thing that we have is our emotional capacity. They often say that's what separates us from animals, right? And to deny yourself that is to deny the very thing that makes you a human being. And it's scary and it's uncomfortable and it's hard. But the only way that we grow is through being uncomfortable and doing scary and hard things. Because if we don't, then we cannot create new data points. We cannot make new meanings. We cannot figure out how to assess situations. And I do think there is a healthy way to step into anger that is productive and not counterproductive. And I love this conversation. It's really powerful because I think what might be happening right now is we're just giving people permission to be able to feel anger. And like that's a part of this mission, this goal of healing is feel it all. Feel it all because it's there and it's deserving of you to be able to be a human being. One of the last questions I have for you before I let you go for the evening is if someone is just starting this journey and they're hearing this and they're like, Stephanie, that sounds great, but I don't know what to do. I really don't know where to begin. What advice do you have for someone listening who just feels like they have no idea where to start this process?
Good question. I think it's just start reading on it. There's a lot of inner child healing books. Read your book. I think I really appreciate your work. And you know why, Michael? Because you there's a lot of psychologists writing books, etc., which is amazing. But you have your own the survival experience. You are able to guide people the best. You are able. You've done it yourself now. You have this recovery path. So I would say follow people like you, read books. Sorry. The online inner healing course that I created. There's a lot of information on healing your inner child, I guess. Just start digging into it. I mean, how did you do it, Michael, if I might ask?
The number one thing for me in the beginning was I acknowledged that I needed to do something. And in that acknowledgement, what happened is I let go of the understanding that it was my fault. And I didn't have the words for that 10, 12 years ago. I just knew that if I didn't take control over my life, nothing was going to change. And then, just like you said, it was about education. Like if I think about anything being the most potent substance to creating change, it's education. And in that, I read all the books. I mean, I got Pete Walker over here. I got Brendan Burchard here. I got even Bessel's over here too on my bookshelf, and just consuming knowledge, consuming information.
Absolutely.
So I could make meaning. Because the thing that I didn't understand was that I didn't understand. And if you can start understanding the brain, the body, take a course, take a seminar, go to, a personal development conference. Often, and even coming up next week, I will be in this room full of people seeking continuing education credit for PhDs because I need to know, I need to learn, I need to grow. And so education over everything for me. And so as we start to wrap up here, where can everybody find you? And more particularly, how can they follow you on Instagram?
Yeah. So psychologist Stephanie on Instagram and Facebook as well. And I'm starting a challenge again. The previous time was a Heal Your Inner Child challenge, which I made an online course now from. And now I'm starting a self-empowerment challenge, and that is for the adults. It's based on the book Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. So that's a very talking about covert trauma, and that is and then you will learn also how to set boundaries and to get there. So follow me on Instagram, I would say, or Facebook.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this, Stephanie. My last question for you is, what does it mean to you to be unbroken?
To be unbroken. Yes. To be able to take our own side, even if we screw up.
Beautiful, poignant, and simple. Thank you so much. Unbroken Nation, thank you for listening. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see ya.
Hey, Unbroken Nation, we'll be right back to the show, but I wanted to let you know that you can grab a copy of my first book, Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma, for free. If you go to book.thinkunbroken.com, you can download the PDF ebook version of the book and get everything that I know about the baseline of healing trauma for free, downloaded to your email right now. Just go to book.thinkunbroken.com to download your copy of Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma for a PDF for your phone. Again, that is book.thinkunbroken.com. Thank you so much for listening to Think Unbroken. Please share this episode with someone who could use it and help us move forward in our mission of ending generational trauma in our lifetime. And if you would, please take 5 seconds to pop on iTunes or Spotify, hit that 5-star, leave a review, and you can also reach out to us on social at Michael Unbroken or at Think Unbroken. And of course, you can check out our YouTube channel at Think Unbroken. Thank you for being a part of Unbroken Nation, my friends. And until next time, be unbroken. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show, but I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of live coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.